welcome to Care to Talk with Hospice Southeast New Brunswick, a conversation exploring care and end-of-life issues. I'm your host, Corey, and today we'll be talking about hospice nursing with our guest, LPN Kiana Butland. Let's get to that interview. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined today by my coworker and friend, Kiana Butland. Kiana, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
So, Kiana, can you tell us what you do at Maison Albert House?
I'm a licensed practical nurse at Maison Albert House. I've been here since we opened the facility a little over 3 years ago now. And my day-to-day role is I really prioritize taking care of the clients, and alongside that, their family members and friends and who's ever in their circle for support as well.
Where did you work before you came to Maison Albert House?
I worked at the Moncton Hospital before I came here.
Okay, so you have a background in hospital.
Yep, I worked there for approximately 3 years as well.
Okay. What drew you to work in hospice?
I've always had an interest in palliative care. The floor I had worked on at the city hospital was geriatric, so I often saw end-of-life care. And one day I was out Christmas shopping with my grandmother, and we saw the Angels Remembered campaign, and that was about, I'd say, 2 years before hospice opened, and I knew as soon as I had seen that campaign that I wanted to apply to work here, so I waited until it opened up for resumes, and the rest is history now.
So when you applied, you had certain perceptions about hospice care, about palliative care. How have they changed since you started at Maison Albert House?
It's changed drastically, actually. Where I was used to working at the hospital, palliative care there on the unit I was, from what I saw, tended to only start a few days before someone would pass. Whereas here we get to see very different time spans, sometimes hours, days, weeks, months. We had the rare year. So it just shows that palliative care can be started early and gives our residents a better quality of life while they are in the process of dying as well.
How do you support the families? How is that different at Maison Albert House compared to your previous employment at the hospital?
We have a lot more time here.
Yeah.
We are very well managed. We're very well staffed. Everyone that I work with cares very deeply, and we all work together. So the extra time that we have really allows us to provide extra care for the families, to give education, to give that emotional support, to just sit and listen to them when they need to vent.
Another piece that we talk about a lot is misconceptions with palliative care, and we see it all the time at hospice. What's the biggest misconception that people have when they come in or that they don't know?
A very big one is that morphine causes someone to die quicker or immediately or speeds up the process, which is very much not true. Our doctors regulate all our medications. They prescribe them in a safe quantity, and the goal is comfort, not to hasten death. It's so they can be comfortable and enjoy their moments.
And a lot of people see the morphine, once we get the morphine at a level where the patient is comfortable, they're sleeping more.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because there's too much medication, but more so because they're not in pain.
Exactly. And then when someone's in pain for a prolonged period of time, it exhausts the body. So you have to think, you're training for a marathon, you're running and running. When your body finally gets a break, you're going to be exhausted. And that's what it is most of the time, is these people are having high levels of pain, but sometimes before they come here, or with a disease change or with progression, their pain level varies. So when they finally get the comfort that they need, their body is finally able to relax and rest in the way that it needs.
I agree. I think you see the difference in their face once they're controlled and they're comfortable.
Absolutely. You see them visibly relax. They're not fighting. They're not in pain. They're comfortable, which is as it should be.
Yeah, I completely agree. In conversations with families, and that being, as you said, a bigger part of your role here at Maison Albert, how do you approach difficult conversations about death and dying with patients and families?
I think it's really important to evaluate who you're talking to first. everyone is different. I'm not going to talk to you the same way I'm going to talk to a family member. You really need to look at it from a different perspective, and knowing that they're losing a loved one. This is a permanent thing for them. That's not going to change. I think it's really important to actively listen, and a big thing is to wait while they are talking. So you absorb their information, you actively listen, you see what it is they really need from this conversation. Is it education, or do they perhaps just need someone to vent to right now because they're feeling a lot of things?
How often do you find that they need that extra education or a little bit more time?
I feel like education-wise, almost every shift I'm working, there's a family member that I encounter that requires some extra education or a little bit of coaching or teaching, and it isn't always about the same thing. Sometimes it's something very minute that they need, and sometimes they know the answer, but it's to reinforce that it is true, and that it is okay that this is happening, and that it is a normal process for them as well.
Yeah, anybody listening to this, if you're looking for more information, we have a list of resources on hospicesenb.ca that have been vetted and that we agree are the best places to go for that information. So now we're going to get a little more personal. Can you share a story about a resident? Anything that comes to mind? I'd love to hear a little story.
I have a story that I think also puts hospice into perspective and what accompanies it when you come here, because I think death still isn't talked about as much as it should be. A lot of people think it's scary, it's sad, when there are aspects of it that can be scary and sad, but that's not all that accompanies it. And I vividly remember we had a little lady that we had taken care of for a few months, and I remember one day my coworker Annie and I walked into her room, and she looked at us just beaming with a smile, and she said, guys, when I first got the option to come to hospice and it was explained to me, she was like, I never thought I would smile again. I never thought I would be happy again. And since being here, I've had the chance to spend time with my family. I have met amazing people. I laugh, I smile, and that's all because I'm comfortable and I'm safe and I'm in an environment where I don't have to worry about the extra things I was before I came here. And she was just so happy. She was so happy that she still got to be happy even while she was dying. And I'll always remember that.
I think about all the extra things you get to do here, like sitting outside with residents in our garden, which is growing beautifully this year.
Yeah, it is.
Those little things, too, make such a big difference in our day-to-day life and being happy at work.
They really do. The environment we foster here, the energy that we let thrive and grow, it is a very healing place in all aspects.
What advice would you give someone who's considering a career in palliative care nursing?
I think that everyone is made for a certain type of nursing. If you want to go into nursing, you're going to find your specialty. You're going to find what drives you, what you're passionate about, what you care about, that makes you a better nurse. And palliative care and hospice is one of the most rewarding things I have done in my life. This is where I will hopefully retire from many years down the road. But it is such a unique and specialized care of nursing that you're always learning. There's always continued education. And there's a lot of personal growth that also comes with it, too.
How have you grown personally since you started hospice?
Personally, I found it's made me appreciate a lot of things a lot more. My life, my family, my friends, happiness. It really shows you at the end of the day what is important.
If someone were to ask you why hospice, what's your answer to that question?
Because it's truly the best place to be. Whether you are a potential resident to come here, whether you have a family member or a loved one that is sick and is dying and deserves that quality care, You're not going to find a place that is as specialized as here, in my opinion. And if it's work, you're really not going to find a better nursing job or better support. Or I have made friends that are my family here. And truly, we couldn't be more blessed to have hospice that has opened up.
So we're talking about creating a hospice mixtape playlist on Spotify. We'll share that when it's available. We're looking for every guest to pick a song. It doesn't have to be hospice related. Maybe I'd prefer if it wasn't. What song do you want to add to the hospice playlist, Kiana?
When I think about a song to add to the playlist that comes to my head right away, I think of myself when my time comes and my exit ceremony's happening. I want Dancing Queen by ABBA played.
Dancing
Yeah.
Queen by ABBA? You love ABBA.
I love ABBA.
So the exit ceremonies are special. When someone passes away, the families gather with a candle, and the staff gathers with a candle, and we kind of have a moment of reflection. And it's really a beautiful ceremony that's very special to all of us here. What's your favorite song that you've heard played at an exit ceremony?
On the Road Again was one, and I had Stairway to Heaven not long ago. That was a good one too.
I liked On the Road Again. It's really a good way to see people's personality, and it always gets a smile out of the families. And,
it brings a lot of closure and peace to them as well.
Yeah, I love the exit ceremonies. All right, Kiana, thank you for joining this podcast. Thank you for being here. I think we're going to have you on again in the future to talk a little bit more about different pieces of hospice and palliative care.
Thanks for having me.
All right, welcome back. Thank you to Kiana for joining us on the podcast. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our events at Hospice Southeast New Brunswick. We just had our annual golf tournament sponsored by BMW Mini Moncton. We'd like to thank BMW Mini Moncton for their support. We'd also like to thank all of the golfers, our community, the sponsors, and all of our volunteers. It takes everyone to make an event like this happen, and we want to thank you all for everything you do. Next up for events, we have our annual Memorial Walk coming up September 15th at Centennial Park. To find out more information and register, go to www.hospicesenb.ca or check us out on Facebook. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.